The room is quiet, not in the comforting way of a peaceful home, but in the heavy stillness of waiting. The tatami beneath you is clean but worn, softened by years of kneeling. Paper walls breathe gently in the wind. Somewhere outside, down a narrow alley, the voice of a vegetable seller echoes faintly, calling out about. You sit motionless, your hand resting loosely beside a sword that hasn't left its sheath in years. It is still polished, still sharp, but it has become more symbol than weapon. You are a Ronin samurai, without a master. Once, your kind rode under banners, served noble lords, guarded castles, or led men into battle. But now you live in the quiet space between memory and ceremony. Your clothing is simple, mended many times. Your kimono bears no family crest, only careful stitches. You wear both your swords, because you must, but no one truly expects you to use them. The city around you, Edo, is thriving. The streets are busy, the markets are full. But for you, opportunity is scarce. You once studied military strategy. You trained daily in swordsmanship. Now you write poems on scraps of rice paper and recite them to the air. You polish your katana, even though it has no enemy to meet. You rise early to perform drills in the courtyard behind your building, alone. The movements are precise. The blade sings through the air, but no one is watching. Food is plain and uncertain, mostly rice and pickled vegetables. Sometimes barley stretched thin to seem more filling. If you're lucky, a sliver of fish. If not, hot water and hope. You eat slowly and quietly. There's little to say. Even your neighbors rarely speak to you. A samurai without a patron is a ghost in the hierarchy. Not quite disgraced, but not useful either. Other Ronin you once knew have adapted some work as guards for merchants. Some have married into shopkeeping families. Others have taken positions in low-level bureaucracy. A few drink heavily. Some disappear. But you hold on to the code. You bow when required. You speak only when spoken to. You keep your clothing tidy, your posture straight, your blades oiled. The world may no longer demand these things, but you give them anyway. Because that's what it means to endure. That's what you were raised to do. At night, you listen to the wind move through the shutters. In the distance, the pleasure quarters awaken with music and laughter. But you do not go. That world isn't for you, not because of poverty, but because of principle. The only luxury left to you is integrity, and even that, over time, becomes heavy. The life of a masterless samurai in Edo was not one of drama or violence. It was one of slow erosion, the slow undoing of purpose. And yet, it was also a life of patience, of dignity clung to in silence. A warrior in a time of peace, with nothing left to fight except the quiet fading of meaning itself. A long, slow-burning tale of loyalty, revenge, and ritual suicide. Let us remain in Ido. The streets are swept, the lanterns are hung, and in the quiet corners of the city, a story still lingers, spoken in low voices, carried in the scent of incense and the rustle of silk. This is the tale of the 47 Ronin. It is not loud, it is not fast, but it runs deep. The year is 1701. Peace has reigned for generations under the Tokugawa. The wars of earlier centuries are distant echoes. The samurai class, once the sword of Japan, has been reshaped into administrators, scholars, and retainers. Still honored, but increasingly ceremonial. And in this world of protocol and quiet restraint, one man falters. His name is Asano Naganori, a young daimyo from Aka province. He is summoned to Edo to perform ceremonial duties at the shogun's court. But court life is rigid, and every movement, every word, every silence matters. To assist him, Asano is assigned a high-ranking official named Kira Yoshinaka, a court master of etiquette. Kira is older, experienced, rumored to be difficult. He expects gifts costly, ones as gestures of respect. Asano, proud and principled, offers modest tokens. Kira is insulted. Tensions simmer. Days pass. The court watches, and then it happens. One morning, in the grand corridors of Edo Castle, something cracks. Asano, provoked once more by Kira, draws his short sword and strikes not fatally, but boldly. Blood is drawn. Silence follows. Kira survives, but Asano has broken a sacred law. Violence within the castle grounds. Punishment is swift. By sunset, Asano is ordered to take his own life seppuku, death by ritual death, performed with dignity and control. His lands are seized. His retainers are disbanded. His name, shamed. But among those retainers were men who held loyalty above life. 47 of them, now Ronin, quietly scatter. Some take menial jobs. Others blend into the city. And for almost 2 years, they wait. They wait not in fury, but in stillness. Each man resumes a humble life. One becomes a carpenter. Another sells firewood. Their swords are hidden. Their intentions are whispered only in glances. Because revenge, in the code they follow, is not dead, is precise. And then, on a winter night in 1703, snow falling softly over Edo, They gather, armored, prepared, and calm. They march through the streets, not shouting, not rushing. They move like a memory returned. They surround Kira's residence. Guards are overwhelmed, but not slaughtered unnecessarily. Servants are spared. They search the house by lantern light. And at last, in a small hidden chamber, they find him Kira. Older now, trembling. They present him with a choice. To die with dignity, as a samurai, he refuses. They behead him, quietly, cleanly. And then, in solemn procession, they carry his severed head across the snowy city to Sengakuji Temple where Lord Asano is buried. There, they wash the head, lay it on Asano's grave, bow, and turn themselves in. The city is stunned. Were they criminals or heroes? Law demanded punishment. Honor demanded reverence. The shogunate's debates for weeks. Eventually, the ruling comes. They will die, but not as common criminals. They are allowed to perform each Min 40SX as one had died. Erla takes his life with quiet composure. They are buried beside their master, and there they remain. Visitors still come, even now, to the small temple, to the simple gravestones. They bring incense, flowers, poems, because this was not just a story of vengeance, it was a story of timing, of stillness, of waiting. In a world where peace dulled the edge of the sword, these men reminded everyone what silence could still conceal. A quiet exploration of geisha, kabuki, and the hidden culture of Edo's pleasure quarters. Let us move now. Through the evening streets of Edo, the sky is deepening into indigo, and the oil lamps begin to glow behind wooden lattice. The air is touched with the scent of grilled eel and sweet rice wine. You are walking slowly now, through narrow lanes, lined with tea houses and silk shops. The noise of the day is quieted, replaced by music, delicate notes from a shamisen, drifting from behind a painted screen. You have entered the Yush. It is the most famous of Edo's Yukio, the floating worlds, a term that described the city's pleasure quarters, where time seemed to loosen its grip and reality softened into art, theater, and illusion. But despite what the name might suggest, this was not a place of chaos or abandon. It was a place of rules, of performance, and of carefully maintained illusion. To the outsider, the floating world might appear as a realm of beauty and pleasure, but within its boundaries were layers both visible and invisible that shaped the experiences of those who passed through it. There were entertainers, geisha, trained from childhood in music, dance, conversation. Contrary to modern misconceptions, geisha were not courtesans. Their purpose was not the body, but the mind. They offered company through art, elegance, restraint. A geisha's glance held, meaning a gesture could end a conversation. Her voice was trained, her laughter measured. To be a geisha required years of study, instruments, poetry, seasonal knowledge. One had to know how to fold a fan, and when to remain completely still. And then there was kabuki, the theater of movement and exaggeration, performed by men only during the Edo period. Often in highly stylized makeup, kabuki told stories of revenge, forbidden love, mistaken identity, and honor lost and found. It was bold, yes, but beneath the gestures were strict forms, inherited scripts, and deep familiarity with the audience's expectations. Even the structure of the Yoshiwara district itself reflected this duality. The area was enclosed by a moat and gate. Entry was controlled. Once inside, visitors encountered a self-contained world designed to feel separate from the city outside. The women who worked there could not leave without permission, and for them, time moved differently. There were the TUE elite courtesans whose rank was high, whose patrons were powerful, and whose lives were both privileged and limited. To become a Taiyu was to ascend a staircase lined with rules and sacrifice. Each night, they would process in slow, deliberate steps through the streets, flanked by attendants, their movement a performance in itself. Their presence turned the act of walking into theater. These were women of poetry, of calligraphy, of courtly manners. And yet, their futures were not entirely their own. Behind the painted faces and elaborate kimono were contracts, debts, and expectations. Some found wealth, a few found love, many simply endured, day by day. Behind the beauty, the floating world was never meant to last forever. Like a reflection on water, it shimmered and then fire swept through Edo. Changing laws reshaped districts. The rise of modernity made the world less patient with illusion. But the traces remain. In quiet streets of modern Tokyo, you can still find the curve of an old gate, the foundation of a vanished tea. You can hear echoes in the notes of a shamisen, played by a young woman whose voice moves like silk through a poem. And in the stories passed from actor to actor, written in faded ink and remembered in gestures, you glimpse a society that built an entire world for the purpose of stepping outside of reality. The floating world was not just a place of pleasure. It was a mirror, a stage, a space between, a look at power, privilege, and the delicate rhythms of elite domestic life. The sun rises gently over the rooftops of Edo. Its light does not enter your room directly, but filters through shoshi screens, softening into rectangles on polished wood. You wake not to an alarm, but to the silent bow of a maid who slides open the door just enough to signal the beginning of the day. You are the wife of a daimyo, a powerful feudal lord. Your name will not be spoken outside this estate, not in public. You do not appear at court alone. You do not walk the city's streets. But here, behind these gates, your world is complex and carefully woven. The estate is large, built in wings and gardens, with servants' quarters, a ceremonial hall, and rooms devoted entirely to seasonal tasks. But you remain in the inner residence, known as the oku, the women's quarters. This is your domain. From here, you do not rule, but you maintain, and in a society built on balance and harmony, that role is sacred. Your day begins with ritual. You are bathed by attendants, your hair combed and pinned into a high, formal style. You wear several layers of silk, chosen to reflect the season, perhaps a light pink underrobe for spring, or soft grays, edged with plum for late autumn. Every fold is arranged, every step must glide. You are not rushed. Breakfast is quiet, small portions of rice, soup, pickled vegetables, and perhaps a bite of sweetened egg. You eat facing the garden, the chirp of birds, the only sound. Across from you sits your eldest daughter, eyes downcast, mimicking your posture. Much of your morning is given to overseeing the household. You do not clean or cook, but you are responsible for those who do. Dozens of women live and work within the residence. Maids, companions, you walk among them slowly, acknowledging their bows, reviewing fabric swatches, approving the layout for the evening's incense ceremony. The women closest to you speak softly. There is laughter, sometimes, but never loud. Silence is a virtue here. You write letters carefully, in elegant bruise. You inquire after your husband's allies, give advice on a planned marriage match for a niece, compose a few lines of poetry to accompany a flower arrangement. In the afternoon, you may practice music or watch as younger girls rehearse a dance for the next festival. You rarely see your husband. He is often at the shogun's castle or in administrative meetings. When he visits, it is formal. You speak briefly, exchange respectful glances, and offer tea. There is warmth, but rarely touch. Public affection is not part of this world. You are admired, but not known. You are powerful, but not free. Still, you find peace in the rhythm. There is beauty in the repetition. The way the incense curls upward in late afternoon light, the feel of cool lacquer beneath your fingertips, the faint clack of sandals in a distant corridor. Evenings pass in layers of ceremony. You host a small poetry circle. You listen as a maid reads aloud a passage from the tale of Genji. You sit with your youngest child as she draws birds in ink. The night deepens, lamps are lit, shadows soften. Another day has passed without disruption, and that, in your role, is success. When it is time to sleep, you are helped out of your robes, your hair unbound, and brushed again. You lie on a futon arranged precisely by hand, your face turned slightly toward the moonlight slipping through the screen. Tomorrow will bring the same. And that, too, is by design. In this life, control is not exercised through force, but through stillness, through knowing when to speak and when to remain invisible. Such was the rhythm for the women of power in Edo Japan, soft, slow, and shaped by unspoken rules. And now, we leave behind the stillness of the estate, the red lanterns of the pleasure quarters, the silence of the Ronin's room. The stories of Edo do not shout. They wait, they linger. They ask us not to look closer, but to listen longer. Let the final moments of this journey settle in your breath. Let the old rhythms carry you, gently, away from the present, and to sleep.